On today's show, we are rocking the yellow because we got some bright, shiny, lovely news for all you madness enthusiasts. Jackson Merrill agreeing to an extension for 9 years with the Padres, and the team improving to 7-0, a sweep and an extension of a young superstar legend in the making. What else could you possibly want, folks? Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Thursday, April 3rd. As always, I'm your host with sometimes occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes. You can follow me on Twitter /X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, Javiipeno. You can also follow me on TikTok at Javios, which I've been slowly building up because I am a short form content beginner now, I guess you could say. So follow me on there, guys, and feel free to reach out, especially because we are closing in on the weekend. And when we close in on the weekend, it means we're closing in on Monday, which is the mailbag segment where you can send me all your questions and comments about the team. And believe me, I don't think there's been any shortage of things to talk about, folks. Really good vibes with the Padres, let me tell you. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And of course, thank you for making us your first listen every day, folks. Free and available on all platforms as always. Man, it's just like every single... I don't even know where to start. Because it's really important to always remember, even when things aren't great, this era of Padres baseball, I've said this a bunch of times on this show over the last 5 years, the transformation of an organization is very rare for you to go from, not just irrelevant is not the only word here, but to go to a third-rate team that's kind of, let's call it the filler episode of teams. Right? When you're watching your favorite show and it's just a little bit of filler before you get to the great finale, that's kind of what the Padres are for the majority of their history. And part of that is because they don't spend. And then along came A.J. Preller and Peter Seidler and a bunch of stars, and now they're just one of the premier stories in Major League Baseball. Even if they aren't always successful, even if they don't win as some other teams, they are the premier story in baseball. At least one of them. Because this is a team that every time you think that they're out, the star power and excitement is there. And they are a prime, premier example, to use that word again, I'm a big fan of it, of how any team, this is a small market team, and they are going out there and embarrassing bigger markets like the Chicago Cubs, like the Cleveland Guardians, the Milwaukee Brewers even. So many teams that refuse to do what the Padres are doing. Look at the Baltimore Orioles struggling right now, right? And what did they do? They add on to that. We've gotten plenty of things over the years, and they decide to bless us this morning with a Jackson Merrill extension. Who's got it better than us, folks? Who's got it better? First reported by Robert Murray from Fansided, Jackson Merrill and the San Diego Padres are in agreement on a 9-year, $135 million extension, and the deal, which can max out at $204 million and includes a $30 million club option for a 10th season that can convert to a player option, was negotiated by Drew Hardy and Josh Knipp of KHG Sports. Let me just tell you, your boy had a great day yesterday. I'm gonna flex for a second. I woke up early, had to get a little bit of work done around like 6:30, then went back to bed for a little bit, and then woke up again. I got a little bit of a match on a dating app. That was sick. And then also I made myself a Taylor egg ham and cheese. That was dope. I saw, Nintendo Switch 2 news, and then Jackson Merrill signing an extension. I mean, I'm sorry, guys, not to brag too much, but it was a pretty good April 2nd morning for your boy. My first reaction was, first of all, this is great. Like, this is super exciting, right? This is super duper exciting. And I think that while I have been very vocal on this show about how if I had to choose one thing, I would rather extend a Michael King or a pitcher of some elite tier, because I am a little bit more worried about the Padres' rotation going forward, especially given that they traded a lot of their pitching prospects away. That being said, I am not upset. That was just in a vacuum. This is really, really cool. And I did actually like a little bit of a YouTube short. I posted on all my socials, kind of like a video breaking down the signing overall. And I think that there is rightfully going to be a lot of people who are like, Javi, how could you possibly object to this? Well, for one thing, again, the Padres still are a team that had weird ownership madness, whatever you want to call it, like a lot of ownership malfunction, dysfunction, whatever you want to call it, with turmoil is the best word I could use. So this is not, I didn't see this coming, frankly. I just didn't know that they were going to be able to get this done so quickly. I'm not surprised, but I don't know if I thought that this was going to happen immediately, because I thought they might have to be a little bit more, use their budget a little bit more sparingly. But then a few weeks ago, if you guys remember, we actually got some comments that were like, hey man, with the attendance and all that, we can operate a certain way. So it might have been, was it a little bit of a wink wink saying, hey, we're going to keep operating, right? Now, I don't think that this means that forever we never have to worry about ownership with John Seiler being the new control person, that we never have to worry about them getting cheap ever again. It could very well happen in the future. Don't get me wrong. I mean, look at some other teams. The Boston Red Sox always spent, and they were like, we're going to let go of the best player we've had in the last 40 years, right? That just is always possible, but I do think it does bode well for the team in the current and at least a decent amount of way into the future. Now, here's the thing. I got a little bit off topic there, but with the Jackson Merrill extension, I think that there's a bunch of ways to look at it. I also think that contracts are a big thing here. It reminded me a tiny bit of the Julio Rodriguez deal, only in the sense that Julio Rodriguez had like a $200 million deal that can approach like 400 given incentives. And this contract is a $100 million deal that has a lot of incentives that could bring it up to a big, typical star tier price, right? It also reminded me of Michael Harris's contract with the Atlanta Braves, a player who, by the way, was very similarly amazing his rookie year. I know he's been struggling ever since then. He's gotten hurt a lot. But Michael Harris, his first year, right? Jackson Merrill put up 5.3 wins above replacement last year. He was amazing. Mr. Michael Harris, he put up 4.8 wins above replacement. And then he signed a deal, 8 years, 72, giving him about $8 million or so a year. Jackson Merrill is only going to have a $15 million average annual value every single year, which helps the team tremendously. Very, very exciting. And I know some people might be worried, right? But bottom line is this guy was historic. Only 5 players have ever hit at least 290, hit 20 home runs, and swiped 15 bags in their debut season. And in terms of the WRC plus numbers and offensive stuff, basically all the young guys in the rookie season, we're talking Pujols, we're talking Harper, we're talking Trout, we're talking Corey Seager, we're talking basically only some of the best players out there. So he's an amazing company. Even if there are some questions I have, some little concerns in the future. My little concerns are very mild, though. The fact that he doesn't have the big walk rate, and the fact that he was never a prospect that was regarded for power, right? And he displayed so much of that, particularly in the second half. Was it just like a really good second half? He had a 20% home run fly ball rate. Like, that's pretty high. And I'm not saying he can't do it again, as evidenced in today's game when we get to the recap. But it's just minor things, because overall I still think that this is a very good player, and I'm really excited to have him going forward. And hopefully it means, nothing's going to change too much for the Padres. They were just kind of reloading over the last year or so, and they were still trying to figure out ownership, so maybe they didn't want to send out all that much money just yet. Instead, they said, let's wait, bide our time, and we're going to do this. It helps the Padres tremendously, and Jackson Merrill himself brought that up actually in the conference with AJ Preller, seeing him smile and talk about the first time he watched him, like incognito in high school and all that stuff. The most AJ Preller story possible, by the way. One other thing, the only thing I want to like mildly critique, and it is going to get some people upset that are listening to this podcast, probably, that's just how statistics work, but Jackson Merrill did at one point, and I do respect it, I do really appreciate that he was like, look man, I want to go out there and still sign with a team and still kind of be able to provide them some relief salary wise so they can bring in some other good players. Like, I do respect that. That being said, it also seemed like he took a little bit of a shot at Juan Soto, right? And again, to read the whole quote, he says, look, I'm 20. He says, I want to be here long term. I don't care about the money. I mean, I do care about the money. I know I'm my value and my worth. I'm not oblivious. I want to be here, but I'm not going to try and screw them and take all their money. I'm 21. If you sign a longer deal, you want years 6, 7 to come around, and you've got these people who can sign and get on the team and bring with me, rather than sign a big deal and feel like you can't get anybody else. And it's tight. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but you've just got to be patient and see how it plays out. And then he goes on to make a little bit of a sly nod, dare I say, saying, you got some other players out here where it's just a little bit too much. It's too out there. It's too crazy. I'm paraphrasing now. I don't have the quote in front of me that, make $700 million or something. And that felt like a little bit of a shot at Juan Soto. And before we get into the game recap, I'm going to talk about that one criticism I have of what Jackson Merrill said, even if it gets people a little bit annoyed, right after this, guys. Right after a short word from our sponsors. Folks, let me tell you about the good folks over at the house that supplies you. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I am, of course, talking about Supply House, which gets you the supplies you need from a site made for the skilled trades. Whether you're plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online, and their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help, don't worry, we know robocalls and whatnot. For trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. And plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. Go check that out, guys. And we're not done. We also got to give a shout out to the friends over at Just Ingredients. That's right. We love these good folks. You know why? Because they're here for you, man. Because when it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. And that's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. It's fantastic, guys. Go check it out. Visit justingredients.us and use LockedOnMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips and all that sort of content that you may like very much, maybe you'll see Mr. Bryce Harper, the MVP. You've definitely heard of himself. Follow Just Ingredients at just.ingredients on Instagram. Go on and check it out. And just like that, everybody, we are back here on the Locked On Padres podcast, thriving and vibing as always. I think I did a little bit of a cliffhanger there in the first segment. I'm not going to lie, but I realized, you know what? It's break time. We got to get in a little bit of a read. You know, that's what we do out here. So I had to do it. But I was going to tell you guys the one criticism I have of Jackson Merrill is he did take a little bit. It sounded like a shot at Juan Soto. Maybe even Shohei Ohtani because he's also making $700+ million too, right? But maybe in the case of Juan Soto, especially because he was a former Padre. Now, here's the thing. Again, this is going to upset some people, but I don't know if I loved it. I do respect always pettiness in sports. Like, I respect it. I'm always like, you know what? This is kind of funny every now and then. And you know why? Because in other sports, they don't get weird about it. They're like, hey, we're just going to play and compete. Baseball, you get like a fastball in the ribs for no reason, whatever. But, basically, people have read what Jackson Merrill said, which you can find online, as him taking a little bit of a shot on Soto and being like, you know, he got all that money for himself and disregarded the team needs and whatnot. First of all, aside from the fact that Steve Cohen's fine, right? Like, the team is going to be fine and whatnot. And maybe it was a shot at him saying like, hey, you left for extra money for the Mets when the Yankees were probably a better team. Who knows? But for me, I just, in general, never am really a fan of athletes taking shots at other athletes over the amount of money that they got. I just think that it's really lame to do that. Get paid, my dude. You know what I'm saying? And also, optically, I'm not necessarily a fan of it either, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. And in the case of Jackson Merrill, this is someone who is from a pretty good background, like a wealthy American suburb versus where Juan Soto is from in Santo Domingo. Like, I just don't think optically I want a player like that criticizing other players trying to get their bag. You know what I mean? And it's not like Jackson Merrill settled and said, I'm going to go 5 years, $45 million. That way I really helped the team tremendously, right? Like, you still got your value. Again, I'm not mad at Jackson Merrill. It's just a slight observation on my part. And the only thing from the news yesterday, I was like, I don't like that. I don't think us taking shots there, and especially optically for those reasons I just mentioned, I'm not a fan of it either. That being said, again, I'm only talking about it. I don't care that much because I have a Padres podcast, so I got to mention everything that comes to mind. But, folks, that is not all. That is not all, folks. that we're talking about. We got a game to recap, folks. The Padres swept the Cleveland Guardians after yesterday of a final score of 5-2. Dylan Cease, our guy returned with a vengeance. 6 1/3 innings, only giving up 1 earned run on 4 hits, walked 1, and struck out 7. Now, here's the thing. He was not bad in his first start. He was fine. It wasn't great, right? He basically came in, wasn't able to get that. I think he gives up that 1 home run. Who was it that got it? I think it was Jared Kelenic got that 1 home run that kind of spoiled the start. And he can, he's prone to have those, like, I've noticed that about Cease. He can be, like, looking incredible through a couple innings, right? He had a couple, like, not immaculate, but, like, whatever is the tier below immaculate, where he struck out 3 guys. You got Don Orsillo freaking out. The Bo Naylor, Gabriel Reyes, all down by way of the K. I love when he does that. Like, he looks really sharp to begin some games sometimes, and then it's like, he has that, like, one nightmarish sort of inning. But I thought that he looked pretty good overall. And I have, like, barely any concerns with Dylan Cease. I have barely any concerns with Michael King as well. One thing of note, though, he did generate a decent amount of whiffs on his slider, as he always does, and he did throw his changeup 10 times again, right? I think that that's what they're going for. He's trying to develop a third pitch, and I think that that is important. Something else that he can maybe go to just a little bit. Now, it didn't have the most velocity in the world, right? Like, that definitely happened. His four-seam fastball was a little bit slower than usual as well compared to last year, but overall, I think he looked okay. I think he's tinkering with some things. And at some point, maybe he'll just be like, all right, screw this. I'll throw a knuckle curve every once in a while, but overall, I'm going fastball slider. That is my combo. But I think if he wants to reach the next level, adding a third pitch could be really helpful, and it could be especially helpful for when the Padres make the postseason. Dylan Cease is clearly a good enough pitcher to be an ace quality guy in a rotation that's going to get $200+ million on the open market for whatever team that may be this offseason. But is he a guy that you're like, this guy wins us regular season, but is he a guy that I'm in the postseason and I'm really excited about because of the fact that if teams fit fastballs like the Dodgers do, or like, frankly, any team he's faced in the playoffs so far, he's struggled against, that is the one thing I'd worry about him. You still sign him, but, like, when it comes playoff time, you're like, damn, like, I don't know. Do I feel great that Dylan Cease is going to show up here? We'll see. I think he's going to be a really interesting player to watch for this year in terms of not his numbers, but whether or not he develops that third pitch. But love it very much. He deals in this one. And in terms of the Padres bullpen, that's the other thing we got to talk about. Wandy Peralta, he gets 2 outs. Doesn't really do all too much. It's a little bit of a weird game defensively for the Padres that occurs here. Adrian Morejon gives up a run. It was only 1, though. He's okay. He's due, I guess, every now and then. Robert Suarez got the save. He looked great. So far, not having any sort of regression the way that I was worried about before the season. But it's still way too early. We'll see how it goes, right? I still think he's going to be good, guys. I'm just saying that I could see a regression that impacts him. And potentially, as I said in the bold predictions before the season, I thought that maybe Yuki Matsu would get more saves than we realized. But in terms of other things from this game, Fernando Tatis Jr., bottom of the 3rd inning. It's kind of a back and forth, like, just some grounded as double plays by Machado at the wrong time, which he's a little bit susceptible to doing. But then you got Fernando Tatis Jr. with it. I at first thought that Arise faked out the runner in this one, or I should say faked out the defense in Cleveland in this one. I actually thought that initially, but I think it was just a double steal attempt. I couldn't tell exactly, but Arise, after running from first to second, they clearly have him dead to rights, but then Tatis steals home. I mean, come on, how rare is that? Tatis has been on a running rampage so far this year, right? He stole home in this one. He's been running all over the place, basically proving my bold prediction that Xander Bogaerts was going to steal more bases than him. So far, I've been dead wrong on that. I think he's got 4 or 5 on the year so far. I will say, before I completely concede that point, because I do think that guys, when a big thing about them has been their ability to stay healthy, I do think that we notice sometimes that they pull a little bit back on stolen bases, albeit, granted, with the new rules, making it easier to steal bases. You can't, check multiple times, the rubber and all that stuff, whatever. I get that. Maybe that isn't going to happen in this case. Also, it's possible that Tatis maybe slows down as we get further into the season. It is the beginning. And the Padres actually have been a team that has had a few years where they just go crazy on the base paths for like a month. This has happened before. I remember in 2021 with Tommy Pham, with Trent Grisham, with Tatis, obviously. Like, those guys were running all the friggin' time. Ha-Seong Kim, right? Like, he had 35, 40 stolen bases or whatever it was. 38? I forgot what it was exactly from 2 seasons ago. Like, it's totally or 1 season ago. Wait, no, 2 seasons ago. Thank you. 2 seasons ago, like, it's totally possible that maybe they pull up on this as they get deeper into the season, as they decide, you know what, we just want to keep guys on base and whatnot. But I will say, with this Padres team, being really aggressive on the base paths might be something that you see. Sometimes it doesn't work, right? We saw some other guys getting thrown out today. Was it Arise that got thrown out at home? No, it was the other guy. Was it Lockridge? I forgot who it was exactly that got thrown out. But you might see aggression bite you in the butt. But maybe with this team that basically has Tatis, Machado, Merrill, hopefully Merrill, as I talked about in the first segment, whether or not he stays in that power and he's able to bring it forward. I'm optimistic he can. I'm just saying, we'll see. That outside of that, you don't have like a ton of power in this lineup. This is not a power-oriented team unless Tatis is 50, right? And that Machado hits 30, 38, or 40, right? For the most part, that's where their main power is going to come from. So maybe it's going to be a team, especially with Luis Arraez, that's going to be really aggressive on the base path. They're going to be trying to be a little bit mischievous, dare I say, like the Arizona Diamondbacks, albeit not with the same necessarily talent level in terms of stealing bases and base running, but maybe that's what they're going for. And that's what I've seen so far through these 7 games in which they are undefeated, folks. But we are not done recapping just yet, folks. We got to take one more break to talk about our sponsor before we close this thing out and get prepared for the next series. And that sponsor we are talking to today is a legendary one. Dare I say, one of my favorite ones. Not picking sides, of course, because these are ad reads and we love all of our sponsors on this show. But it is our friends over at Game Time. And let me tell you, there's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the smell of the ballpark food, the you just know, the hot dogs coming in, whatever crazy stadium food, the Padres, their banana bread pudding thing that they've got going on. All that can be achieved, including if you're going to go the game last minute with Game Time, which makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all in pricing, and a lowest price guaranteed, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices actually drop as Game Time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Let's say you're after work and you realize, my girlfriend said, we're not actually doing anything tonight, and she's actually going to go out with her friends, so I'm going to be alone. Let me go catch a game with the fellas or fellers or whatever it is, right? Like, whatever you want to do. I like that they also just always have good deals over at Game Time, right? If you want to be spontaneous, it's great. Unbeatable prices, more money from food and merch. And they've even got the Game Time Picks feature, which makes finding the best deals effortless. It filters out the fluff and highlights the top discounts in the stadium. And you can even have these nice little seat views before you buy. If you're a visual learner like myself, right? Previewing the exact seat, give you an idea of what it's going to look like before purchasing, so you're not going to be surprised when you get to the stadium. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed with Game Time. And just like that, everybody, we are back thriving and vibing into the final segment of this here show. What else happened in this one? We talked about Tatis running wild and whatnot. What else happened in this one? Jackson freaking Merrill. Also, Manny Machado, by the way, in that same inning, after they just broke through, basically, in the 3rd inning. Manny Machado also gets a single. Hasn't hit a home run yet, Mr. Manny Machado. He's been just kind of Mr., batting average man so far, which, by the way, totally fine with. Especially when he's playing DH, which is a little bit weird for batters sometimes when they are not accustomed to playing DH. But so far, no home runs for him. He's got 2 walks against 2 Ks on the season, or maybe 3 Ks, I forgot. He's just been putting together good at bats. Like, he's getting hits, but the home runs will come. Might come this weekend, especially. 2 for 4 game for Manny Machado in this one as well. Let me tell you, folks, Jackson Merrill. Talk about rising to the occasion, launching a home run after Manny Machado to deep right center, our favorite spot, let me tell you, because that's when you know he crushed it at Petco. On the day of an extension, that is some superstar behavior, man. My goodness. I mean, come on. Tired is Derek Jeter in his last game, hitting a walk-off home run. Oh, whatever, cool, whatnot. Wired is Jackson Merrill the day of his extension, hitting a home run and immediately proving everybody right about him. Really good stuff from Merrill. Again, I've mentioned a lot in today's episode and before, whether or not the power sticks this year, I think it might be more of a thing of, he doesn't walk a lot, obviously. That's probably the bigger issue overall rather than the power, because bottom line is he does barrel the ball well. He does have a good hard hit rate. And he also it's impossible to get this guy not to at least make contact. Like, I think he's going to do well. I'm more like, do pitchers figure something out? This happens sometimes, right? Hey, I remember, now not nearly the level of talent, but we see all the time that guys start off good and then maybe they slip up a little bit. Right? Maybe they're not able to adjust to certain things and it takes them some time, right? This has happened for very good players before. Cody Bellinger is a great example. That guy was an MVP. And then you could even say a guy like Trent Grisham on the Padres. Sometimes people might figure him out and they might say, this guy doesn't walk, so I know how to pitch him a little bit better, right? We'll see. But overall, really optimistic that he's going to be a force for this team. But he wasn't the only one that hit a home run this game. It was Mr. Luis Ariz to deep right in a spot. This is a little bit of a stretch, but the Merrill connections, they were showing all day some game-winning hits that he had. Of course, Jackson Merrill, 5 game-winning hits in the 8th inning or later, which was like also a rookie record. If I'm not mistaken, he was super clutch last year as well, which in my opinion is one of the reasons that I thought he maybe should have won Rookie of the Year. I know that that's a team-based thing, and that with those type of awards, especially in baseball, I don't want to punish teams, especially in baseball, where we know half the time that some of these teams aren't good because their ownership refuses to spend, right? Like, that's part of it. But I did think, man, how much of the Padres' second half breakout, post deadline and all that, was Jackson Merrill just going absolutely crazy and just showing up literally every single game and playing well for this team. Like, that was part of it. But whatever, it's fine. Also, Luis Ariz, he hits a home run into the spot that Jackson Merrill hit that walk off of Mason Miller. And people don't remember, Mason Miller, one of the premier closers in baseball, especially last year. Padres were actually interested in him at one point. I'm actually curious, by the way. You think they'll be interested in him again? I don't know if they have enough ammo to go for Mason Miller right now, but I'm just saying, usually when the Padres are interested in someone, they don't go away and whatnot. Like, I remember with Josh Hader. Josh Hader was like on their radar in 2020. And then they traded for him in 22, right? Like, they, Preller likes his guys. He stays locked in. We just talked about how he was scouting Jackson Merrill incognito when he was so much younger, right? So, hey, what can I say? Also, Luis Ariz, pretty good game for him as well. It's starting to come along. It's going to happen here, right? 2 for 4 game with him with the home run as well. And a stolen base, too. He actually had a nice defensive play with Jose Iglesias in this game, too. So far, Luis Ariz, here's my theory. Not a good defensive player. I'm not saying he's going to be a Gold Glove guy or anything like that. Like guest of the show, Ben Lloyd, said a couple months ago. I think rather it's just that this is a better spot for him. Not just batting second behind Tatis. You know how much of a nightmare that is for opposing teams? That they're like, Tatis could steal a base. Frankly, he could just start running a little bit. And if Ariz puts it in the right place, Tatis just might just score because of his athleticism and his speed. That's a really annoying batter to have right after Tatis. And then you have your Machados, your Merrills, your Bogaerts, your Cronenworths. The latter, most of that, I know that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence for people, but with the lefty fix-up, it is a pretty good bat, and he's at least showed some decent power before. I think that is a really good combination. But with the defense, that's a big complaint about Luis Ariz for his whole career. And guess what? Just stick him at first base, man. I feel like that might be the theme. It's because first base defense, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm not one of those people. I don't want to go extreme. But it seems to matter the least because the range isn't as much of a factor. And he actually made a couple good plays. He's made a couple good plays actually throughout the season, whether it be some nice scoops and a double play in this one, or after Jose Iglesias goes diving for a ball, playing over at third base, by the way, in today's game. He goes 1 for 4 with a hit in this one, by the way. Diving play, throws it from his legs, and then is able to nail the runner. And also Ariz was on the bag. A little bit weird, but he made it work. Good stuff for him. Gavin Sheets, 1 for 4 in this one with a strikeout. He left a bunch of guys on bases loaded situation, but it's okay. Xander Bogaerts, not the best game for him. 0 for 4. He didn't strike out, but he didn't look very good in this game. It was actually kind of reminding me of being like, this is why we're so worried about him. And I know he had that one hard hit on Friday, but we should probably remember it's still not looking all that awesome for him in this game. He did have a flyout at 94.9 miles per hour, but overall not cranking the ball as much as we would like from Xander Bogaerts. It just looked like he was still a little bit more timid at the plate in some situations. There was one pitch that was 90 miles per hour right down in the zone, but it was still in there for a strike. And I think even he was like, I think I should have swung at that, right? Like there's still a little bit with him. I'm optimistic. I am optimistic. But overall, would like to see more from him. If Xander Bogaerts can get through, because I am very optimistic that Jackson Merrill will be great. I'm optimistic that Fernando Tatis Jr. could be the National League damn MVP this year, or at least in that range, right? I'm optimistic that Manny Machado is still going to be awesome. He's going to play a great glove, and he's going to hit 30 home runs. I'm optimistic and very sure that Jake Cronenworth is going to be pretty good, especially at second base this year. I think Luis Arraez is going to hit 330. Xander Bogaerts is the big one that needs to show up for this team. And he's the one that if you had to look at any batter in this lineup and just hope, like, and be like, that guy is the one that I'm worried about because if he's good, this team's upside goes through the roof, it's Xander Bogaerts. I'm really confident in the rest of these guys, assuming nothing crazy happens, stay healthy, knock on wood. That's how I feel about the Padres offense. But that's basically it, guys, for the game recap. And we're done. 7-0, 2 sweeps to start off the season. It's one of the best starts I've seen from the team over these past 5 years. And I'm not just saying that because they're undefeated. It genuinely feels like one of their better starts lately. I think the bullpen is so going to be a key to this team. And I'm really excited to see what they go forward with in terms of how they play going forward, I should say. Friday, they start. It is an afternoon game. It's going to be nice and early. I'm really excited. It is against the Chicago Cubs, who have been... This is going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun. It is expected to be Randy Vasquez versus Shoto Imanaga. So a little bit of a pitching advantage for the Cubs, but I can't wait for this one because you know me, guys. I love watching these unknown pitchers. I already know what I'm getting from Cease and Michael King. I get it. I don't even care if they were not great their opening day, right? As we saw with their second starts. But Randy Vasquez, if he can do something, it's a decent Cubs team. Right? Like they've got some good offense. Dansby Swanson looks like he's having a little bit of a comeback season. Kyle Tucker is a freak, that dude. They are first in runs scored right now. However, they're really bad on defensively, right? They're 28th in ERA, and it's because of that bullpen. So that's going to be the thing for them, at least on Friday, is Imanaga might be the toughest starting pitcher they faced in a little bit. Dare I say the entire season so far, which isn't a lot, but still. But getting into that bullpen is going to be the key. That will be huge. If they can do that, we're cooking, folks. But otherwise, Seiya Suzuki, that guy's a beast. Michael Busch is interesting. Matt Shaw, their prospect. Justin Turner's on this team, and he's always hit against the Padres. And then you've got, of course, Pete Armstrong, Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki, and Kyle Tucker. It's a really good offense. So it's going to be a test for Randy Vasquez and this Padres bullpen. That the way I don't think that Cleveland was as much of a test, at least on the pitching side. So can't wait to see the series and how it goes down. And with that all being said, guys, that about does it for today's edition of Locked On Padres podcast, the only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Remember to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from, but follow the show on Twitter at @LO_Padres, and especially follow me at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO, on Twitter/X and Blue Sky. Reach out to me there to have your questions answered and talked about on the show. I'll also be reading the YouTube comments there too. And follow me on Javios on TikTok if you'd like. I'm going to be posting more short form stuff in general on there and throughout socials. Getting active, you know what I mean? Because Padres are good and baseball season's here, man. Let the good times keep rolling. But until that next time, stay safe and of course, stay faithful. My Fire Faithful homies, take care.